Hello, and welcome to the 45th episode of Composing from Scratch. It has been a minute since my last post, so I want to jump right in. And I did a game jam recently. We have a bunch of music that was created for that and a bunch of sound effects, which is something new. So let's go ahead and check out what we are working with today. We have first ambient sounds. This is where we started with the project. I just wanted to kind of create the right space for it. We used two different tools to do this. We did Massive X because it has some noise generators that we really used throughout the whole project. So this one we used, let's see, Power Hum, but we had about five of them that we chose from the mechanical sounds. And then we also did a couple of different thrill presets. This is like a horror tool. You'll hear it in there. There's a ton of different sounds you can pull from, but it's basically two samples playing against each other, and you can automate it on an XY grid. Super useful. And let's go ahead and pull some of the sounds, and I'll kind of show you how that was meant to be used. So all of these are just big drones, and then they have the same automation, which is a little dark because FX is off. But you'll see they just have just automated X Ys. And I just have it where it's kind of following like a curve where it pulls up a little bit. First half is a little more chill, a little more dynamic on the second half. And all of these are pretty much going through like the same basic setup. If there's something that sounded funky, of course you adjust it. This is where that all came from. And we had those five. We had stuff like this. This is just some of these sound generator that came from Massive. It would be awesome if I was able to just like come up with my own sounds just based off like just hearing things and thinking of stuff. But just for the game jam, especially just to get a lot of useful level content just out fast. This was like just a reasonable choice. You could take one of the thrill settings, drop in one of these sounds, and you have a good environment just off the rip, and it goes forever. No reason to have to overthink it. This is just random combinations. So that was the first thing we did, was just get some ambient sounds in there, something that we could use. I called this a generator because you could really tweak so much through those presets that I wasn't, I was ready to be able to adjust it if someone said, hey, that sounds not enough orchestra or whatever it would be. So let's go ahead and jump back out of there. Let's look into, I'm trying to think of what would be a good one here. Went through the ambient. So let's go through some of the music. So we had the menu music was from another composer, Losty. But then once the game begins, you get some of like a narrative and some intro music. We're not going to save anything just because I'm showing you how it works. I don't want to accidentally make any changes. And you have to bear with me. I don't think we can handle doing it all at once. Let's do a quick camera check. Camera's good. Still recording. Awesome. So here is the intro track that comes in when you start the game. Everything here is made with FM synth. There is a one massive instance that's on the low side of the bass, and then a couple just impact sounds in the beginning. So let's go and dive right in. So we're going to check out the bass. what this is a low wub, wub, wub. What you're hearing there, that's like that low massive bass. And then you have on top a side-chained higher bass that has a little bit more grit to it. And that's what's cutting over the top. Let's go ahead and see if I can't illustrate that. Here's a low bass. And here's a high bass. And together. There was quite a bit of saturation added, and that was just to make sure that that bass line really pushes through on like smaller speakers, like if you played it on like a phone or something like that. And it also glues it together, and that's what really gave us the bass stem sound. And let's go ahead and turn these off just for saving CPU. Next, we had this very vocal lead. And there's a couple different ways that we were able to get this. So we have, first off, a lead bus and then a reverb bus for the lead. And that reverb bus is really handy because, especially in the beginning, the reverb bus is singing more than the primary lead. And that's how we fade in. So for the reverb bus there, we're using 1176 compressor, and then to just EQ, and then we have a big like reverb on it, obviously, and then a compressor just to kind of even it out and kind of bring out that the craziness of the reverb. And of course, for the lead bus primary, we have a compressor off the bat because we are bringing two different synths into the same, and the synth is just an FM8. Just a little bit EQ and compression on it. And then it goes into a really interesting Saturn plugin, so I'll go ahead and play that. Without. And I thought it had some really cool overtones. So if you look here, the mix is actually automated. So as this progresses, it's getting harder and harder into that. And then the overtones are popping out more, higher and higher. And I thought that gave it a cool effect. And especially as we get later, I wanted to feel like it almost dies out. And that wasn't just this mix, that was actually also Byte. And that just gave it a little extra like digital fuzzing out. And as you see, the mix jumps up on there. So that was how the bus was put together. The actual leads, like I said, are just pretty simple tools. It's really Saturn that makes that pop. So after the lead, the next thing that you're going to be hearing there is that little space kind of sound. And that again is just FM8. I did throw a cabinet on there and some onboard effects like a reverb and a chorus. Just kind of give a little bit more spaciness, a little bit more of a stereo feel. And then we threw that through Valhalla Vintage Reverb. If you want to hear alone, this is just the synth. This is with the reverb. A little bit of compression. It's just a 2A. And then it also has Saturn on there, but doing something a little different. We're doing this panning effect to kind of give it like a tremolo. I think that's really distinctive for this. And notching it out with the EQ. And then we did throw a little soothe on there just to get some of like the harshness off. Like that's without. And that's with. I just did not want to damage people's phone speakers with that crazy resonant frequency in there. And so that's like a little spaciness that goes throughout the whole thing, and that's also what kind of fades it in and out, which allows this whole piece to be able to loop, which I don't think it ended up even needing to be looped. I think the narrative ends right when it ends, but it was there just in case you wanted to pull it back around. Yeah, and let's go ahead and jump to the next project. So we did have quite a bit of like level music that got cut. I can kind of jump into that because I did post that in like the OST just because I didn't want it to stay on my hard drive forever and ever and ever. Let's go ahead and grab this. So this is within the game. You can go into the monster's mind and you basically piece together words that you heard from your last victim, and you're able to regurgitate them and try to convince people to let you further into the spaceship. Again, heavy on the bass. I originally was thinking about taking level music and putting a low pass on it. Ended up not going that route. Let's do a quick camera check here. All right. Yeah, we're good. We're good. So let's jump into the bass. So this time we were able to keep an FM synth for the bass. Let's go ahead and pop that out. Ooh, it did it. You know what? This is a massive. My apologies. So this is a unique problem that I've never had before. I've used Massive for like 2 years now. I turned on the project and that's the wrong note. And check this out. If we go to the stem, this is why we have a stem. That's the correct note. So I don't know exactly what it is. This did happen in the project, and I had to figure that out on the fly. You know, what the heck happened to this? And I was thinking about pitching it. I was thinking maybe I messed with something. Maybe it was like a mod wheel and the keyboard was assigned to something I didn't know. And it just turns out this just happens sometimes. Good to know. I have a lot of songs with Massive. Maybe I should be busting those to stems before I do any new ones. But yeah, so this basically was just a preset. I tweaked it to kind of fit a little better. The hard part of this was I really like these stabs, and the way that we did those stabs was through automating the mod wheel, and it's just poking up a little bit. I do understand that this is the wrong note now. It's sometimes when you open it it's right, sometimes when you open it it's wrong. I don't know why it does this. But we'll just use it as an example. Let me go ahead and turn off the mod wheel. So you can hear there's a big difference just with having that open it up. And of course this is just that Massive preset tweaked a little bit, and then we threw on some limiting and a bunch of saturation. So without, still very cool. And this was mixed like 50-50, something on the higher end of the tone. It was really meant to bring out that mod wheel move. And also I feel like just the big saturation like that's just another way to help push it through like a phone speaker, something with a really high, natural like high cut. Like an itty bitty speaker. Alright, so that's the bass synth on this one. Nothing too crazy. It loops. This is the correct note. I don't know why it does this. So here's the lead bus. The way that we made this was with FM synth again. We did a delay on it. I really wasn't happy. Originally it was like this. But that first note had an odd cadence to when it hits. And then it goes to the on-off. And it just drove me crazy. I could not figure it out. I was messing with it a lot. And I ended up just automating it in a little slower, bringing it off. So now it ping-pongs opposite. And I feel like it just kind of smoothed the initial like roughness of that out. And I thought it was kind of a cool like tail for that. I was happy with the way this came out. And it's just an ascending scale. It kind of hits like what I was imagining, like the 7th of the chord at the end there. And that is our lead bus in a nutshell. Let's see, is there anything particular going on there? On the bus, it's the big reverb, using a lot of Valhalla lately, compressor, and EQ. You can hear this guitar on there. Guitar's broken up left and right. The idea there was this is one guitar part. I just wanted to kind of split it up in stereo, and this is just how we approach that. So one hand is like the lower side of the guitar, and then just a pop of the E. The other side is more of the core of the part. So and it's just going through EQ into a guitar rig. There's a gate on there because it's, obviously a performed guitar. And something I am just in love with is the like the rotators. This one has like a tremolo on it, just some, just reverb blended in. It's nothing too crazy. And what's nice about it is it does come in immediately. So when the lead bus is kind of coming in slower, this one is immediately there, and that was very helpful. Because that's like the biggest point that it stands out. There's also a little bit of digital splatter on that hit right there, and I just wanted to accent it a little bit. What we did to get that is just a little bit of bite. So here's without, here's with. Just gives a little bit of something that kind of blends it, but distorts it, and it feels right. And then I did apply that to the other one, even though it didn't have the riffs on there. I just thought that the continuity is a good idea, and it would help just give a little more saturation to that low A. So that is that. Let's see. We did have a little bit of more of like a throaty part. So this square followed the guitar. It was kind of like a middle ground between that really deep bass that's just pounding on the downbeats, and then something that's a little longer that would blend with the drone, and it follows the guitar a little more. It did have a little bit of an automation just to pitch bend up and out. If I play it with the guitar, it's coming up. And it's a square. It came right out of the NES playbook, but then I kind of modernized it a little bit. I threw it through again, kind of like a similar setup to before with that reverb and the guitar amp, but then it's a different head on it. It's the 5150 clone that Guitar Rig has. I also threw it through a bass cab. I thought that would be a good way to kind of really mellow it out. And then the mics and cones, you just play with that. You just switch it through. You think, okay, this one kind of has this one has that. You pick your favorite, and that's all that is. I did add a little air, a little bass on it, and then I threw on a rotator, which I thought added a lot. That's with, that's without. So I thought the rotator was a good little addition to make that a little more special. And then other than that, the only thing that was on there is this drone, which is again FM8. Is based off one of these presets. I don't even remember which one anymore. It doesn't even have it on there. I might have made this one by scratch. Yeah, and so it's just basically just holding it through. It has a big tail on it, which is helpful because when it loops around, it actually uses that tail to bridge, and it goes out right before the guitar comes in. So that was the idea there. And it does have some heavy saturation on it. It's just given a little more oomph, and that just holds over the whole thing, kind of like what a violin would do. And that is how this came together. And since this is present through all of the levels, we actually use this in making the level music, which was cut from the game for time and for voice clarity, so you can hear the characters a little better. But I'll show you some of the loops that we had there. Loading. So as you can see, it's actually the same project, just with additional layers thrown on top. And we would take that bass stem and we would just add things on top. And we used the same voices for all the levels. We did play with certain things, kind of give a little unique flavor, but it's essentially the same instruments with the same signal chains. And here's what they were. We had the left lead. I'll make this a little bigger so you can see it. That's the right. That's the left. And then just a little pad in between. And both of those left and right leads, those are both FM. The middle is a massive. It's just set to basically go around a bunch of different settings. So if we're looking here, you can see there's a bunch of automation happening. It's just an easy way to kind of get like a crazy, wacky sound. And we use that same format throughout the rest of the level tracks as well. So that was one. Very short. It's the exact same length as the monster mine, so you can kind of flip between, and it doesn't change. It's in the same key, like it's all built off the same premise. And this kind of made it easier too, just to throw in a couple ideas and then you throw it on there. Believe it or not, all of the level music was a very quick process. I thought it would be much longer. It was like a Saturday or the Sunday that was going to get submitted maybe, and I just started knocking them out one after the other. I just had a guitar. I would take the droning bass. I would kind of figure out a cool idea, and then I would just run with it. So here's another one. And again, so it all blends over. Left lead, right lead. Same sounds. One of them just has the slide on it, so it's wow wow wow, and the other one is static. Do 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 do. That's and then an octave split. And then the pad in the middle, we use the same kind of pad setup, but this time we use smaller notes. That way it didn't have as much of a chance. And I was guessing there was some volume automation on there, but it could just be from the same exact animator going on. So that was the level 2 music. And each of these correspond with a different crew member. When I did the OST, those are like the final titles that I would use for everything. But this was such a fast process, I didn't even retitle and make it polished. Like I said, they were cut ultimately, so I don't think it's any warrants any critical change immediately. Here is level 3, and I should mention all of these are looping as well, so you can see. And this one was built a little different. So you'll notice that there's a lead center. So that is the center lead, the left lead, and then we have a pad center. and then a pad right. And the reason these pads exist is because I was really trying to make this loop and it was fighting me real bad. So I eventually took them and I swapped them like diagonally. That way they would, the first part of one would be the ending part of the other, and I thought that would maybe make it more cohesive. Really didn't work. I ended up putting it back. But that's why these are kind of split that way. So as you can tell, like this one's hitting but while this one is just hitting the runs in an octave below. And what's kind of neat about this one is at the end there, I actually try to bring it out of key and then back, just to kind of give it a crazy alien feel. Again, just an idea that I came up with on guitar. I think it was this. Let's see if I can even remember how to do it. Let's do it on. I think it was something in that range, and I would just basically walk it up. I don't even know if you heard that because it's electric guitar not plugged in, but that was just to give the idea. Since it's up there, I didn't want to struggle. And that's how this one came about. All of them really came about from me just playing, just getting something under my fingers and then translate it into MIDI. So let's grab. We are on level 4. We're going to go check this one out. Here we go. Come on, come on.
Self-destruct in 1 minute.
Well, you know. Let's see, I might have killed one of those things. I might not have. But I think I might have squashed one of the songs there. Which, that's alright. I mean, we're probably dragging, going through all these anyways. We do have a self-destruct sequence. This would be like the last level. You have to input the command code in order to deactivate the self-destruct. We can play through that real quick.
Self-destruct in 1 minute.
We have the vocals over it. We have the siren, which was just a sample. We did a little pitch, EQ. That's just a sample. Here's with the pitch. Doesn't sound like much, but towards the end it starts dropping off. The high end drops off. It's automated. That's how it fades away. I figured it's almost like an emergency. Like when you get so close, you're like, oh my gosh, you're not paying attention to it. And then reverb for taste. Again, small haul. This one I turned it all the way up. It's full wet. It's supposed to be something just kind of in the distance. So that's the siren. This is just the voice line. It has a bunch of delays stacked. That's what gives it kind of like a little bit of a robot sound. And of course the intercom and everything else that we will jump into in a moment here. So it's just that. On top of that, there is... I just literally took the pitch wheel and just slowly dropped a squelchy note. On the other side there is a little bit of lead over here. This one I just was just bumping the mod wheel and then dragging it up. Bumping the mod wheel, dragging it up. Then towards the end, we're just pulling that baby up. We wanted the whole thing to shift like it's getting out of control. Pretty reasonable. I don't think there was anything too crazy going on. There was a pad on there. Creepy sound. You can hear there is a pitch automation on it. Pretty simple, and it all comes together. Kind of gives you this environment where this pitch is going down on the siren. Everything else is kind of rising. And that's how the self-destruct sequence was put together. I'm so sorry. I think we lost the song there. I think I saved as the wrong way, and I could probably pull it out of like an auto save. Well, not in that folder. But I do know where they would be saved originally, and so I could probably dig it out, but we're not going to do that on camera for sure. So let's go ahead and jump out of this, and let's jump into the last track. And this is the final version of it. Originally, we're supposed to have a level where it has a big window, and you can see how close Earth is, and it really supposed to give a little gravity to the situation of just how close you are to impact with the Earth. But I wanted it to be kind of like a bittersweet moment, so I wrote this song thinking of that level. Camera check. We're good. Whoop. Yeah, we're good. It was very melancholy, but a little too upbeat, I think, and not creepy enough. What it ended up getting used as is after the game is over, it's like the final sequence, and this was put together almost the exact same way as the intro piece, where we have like the high and low bass. It's the exact same signal chains all going on. I was playing with Sonatex on the master and on the bass. I ended up just not using it. We went with the decapitator, which we used on the rest of the project. But that was like a heavy consideration. It's kind of like a vinyl saturation. We did pull a low pass, and that's what pulled up that allowed this bass to enter. There was a little bit of like volume automation and stuff too. It's just all in all just kind of a very standard bass line. I do feel like it really pulled out and felt like a stand-up bass with the attack, and I loved that aspect of it. It's just kind of a walking line anyways. Kind of stays a little too steady on some of the notes just for a walking line, but that was the idea. We're pushing a little too hard. This song really likes to fuck up my computer. Okay. So, what was the timestamp on that? We will see. Okay. And we did a reverb bus for everything, just to give it some space to kind of pull everything together and make it feel like unified in the same room. We had some leads going on that were exactly what you'd expect. Here's the stem for it. So here's one of the leads. This is the other lead that just comes in. It's an octave up, I believe. And it just gives a little more texture, a little more space, because they are pan stereo. And those are FM8s. Let's see, let me take off the effects from the bus. That's just with little EQ and compression. Bust them, another layer of compression, like a slower compression, some more EQ. And then what really gave it flavor is that Saturn. And again, the bite, which was used a little bit more slow, a little more gradual than the other one, but it was the same effect. And then on the last one, they were cut, so you get a much cleaner, like the original sound, which I thought kind of took it down a gear before we head out. And there is a loop to this as well. Everything here was built to loop, which was funny because when we discussed it in the initial call, I wasn't required to do loops. I don't know why I decided to make everything loop. But that's how the lead bus works. There's also a reverb bus for it. So I bust all the leads to a reverb bus, and then those go sent out to another reverb bus. I know, it's crazy. But we just love reverb here. And I had this little setting down here that we ended up not using any of those fillers, no like impacts or anything. And then of course this has like the sounds that you'll hear when you beat the game, and it's supposed to be like the computer voice saying like eject for shooting out the lifeboats, and there's some big booming sounds that's supposed to sound like that, then like a crashing onto Earth. It's all in the ending, but this was the actual music that was written, that was used there. So that's going to step out of the music world. Let's check out some of the voice acting lines, because that was also something that was brand new. I had not done that before. And there was two different voices that were really going on. There was an intercom kind of voice, and there was like a monster voice. And we had a bunch of people pitch in and do the voice acting lines. We had some great performances. I really appreciate the voice actors. That was super cool. So let's go ahead and jump in. Let me see. I think a good place to find the processing is going to be here. The captain did a very like animated performance, and so they had a lot of the background noise. Some of the voice actors had very professional stuff. I didn't touch it on the gate or anything. This one took a little more elbow grease.
Mill Bay out. Peyton, is that you? I'm glad to hear your voice.
So as you can see, I cut a lot in between. I put things on the grid so they were easier to render out, because all of the individual lines in the game had to be their own isolated sound. The monologue in the beginning, that could be one big piece, especially because the performance was done very well. It didn't really need to be like time corrected or anything. So the intercom was put together with Parallax. This is what I would use when I played in the band Alta Luna for like a bass tone. It has low compression, mid, high. It's a great all-in-one, and it has some cab emulation.
This is Captain Janet Windlass of the EFF Mill Bay. Our vessel has been struck by unregistered debris, and our engines
raw
are
performance.
disabled. Orbit will decay in 30 minutes without reboot.
Parallax.
We're attempting repairs,
And then
but
with
the damage
kind of like a
is
radio
severe.
setup for the high pass, low pass. And that's pretty much it. There was gating going on, so we were really gating heavy just to try to remove any background sounds. There was a gate before and after, and that's just pretty standard for any microphone. So it really wasn't that crazy.
Mill Bay out.
But that's how we got really crisp, clean recordings on this. So the intercom was pretty much set up like that. Every last phrase of a victim is able to be used later by the monster and regurgitated. And so here is the monster voice.
You can use mine. I wasn't planning on taking it myself.
The way this was done was we have like an input, which is the
You can use
monster,
mine. I wasn't planning on taking it myself.
and it has some gate. It has just a pitch that's just spreading the pitch everywhere, and then a chorus. The chorus was just kind of meant to make it sound like otherworldly. And then it goes into 3 different channels. Each channel has kind of like their own setup. They have their own pitch, which is just a double of one of the 3 filters that it was originally sent through.
You
Limiter,
can use mine.
not cutting anything. It's not actually slamming anything. It's just bringing the total volume up. And then some decapitator.
You can use mine. I wasn't planning on taking it myself.
Just trying to smooth it out. It sounded a little unnatural with the pitch, so I just wanted it to kind of feel more like a less grating to the ears. And then each of these have their own EQ curve. So this is like just the high
You can
pocket.
use mine. I wasn't planning on taking it myself. You can use mine. I wasn't planning on taking it myself.
You can kind of hear the pitch of the voices change.
You can use mine.
This
I
was the
wasn't
mid
planning on
pocket,
taking it myself.
and this is the low pocket. And they all get blended
You
together.
can use mine. I wasn't planning on taking it myself. Shit! I can't let it escape.
So that was essentially how the whole monster voice was put together. It's just 3 different voices that are all kind of modulated a little different, and then brought together into the same, like, slammed together bus. The tricky part with the monster is, since the game mechanic works in a certain way where you're able to take the original line of
You can use
the
mine.
voice actor and then
You can use mine.
repeat it, was every word actually had to be mapped out. That way they could be recalled. Let's see, I'm going to pull up the captains for this exact one. And this one is just a render of the full last line in the regular intercom voice and the monster voice.
So you can use mine. I wasn't planning on taking it.
And then this is like the intercom.
You can use mine.
As you see, there's a ton of markers on here. So like, let's say this is I. On the fifth one, we have a timestamp down here. It's 01.418. And then I went together and I pulled out I. It's the fifth line. And look at that. There's the timestamp right there. And this is just so it was easy to drop into the code. Just took the whole script, broke it down to character by character. And that was a little bit meticulous, but if you've done any kind of vocal processing, it's not shocking.
You can use mine. I wasn't planning on taking it myself.
I would say like manual correction of auto-tune is probably more tedious than this. But that was something that had to be done for each voice, for each of these final lines. Anything that you wanted to be manipulated by the monster had to be cut up like this. So that was also a very new experience. I've never done voice acting stuff. I've done like minor like videos like my own, not like YouTube, but just other projects that are very small. It was low stakes. This one was a little bit bigger, but yeah, it was kind of fun to do this. I wish I had more time to sit there and kind of tweak. Once you heard it back, like in the game, be like, oh, maybe I should open this one up a little bit. But it just time constraint that wasn't available, unfortunately. But that's how the voices were all put together. And the only other thing that was major in this is now that we had the voices, we had the voice acting, we had like some of like the background sounds, we had the music, with some of the like cut scenes. So every character has a death scene, and the way that we were able to put that together basically was out of one of two files. So I had a like stinger that I really liked. Then we needed to have like the door opening. We needed to have the monster moving. We needed to have the actual attack of the monster, and that's where this was like my key. And all of the cutscenes were built out of the. Oops, sorry about that. We cut out. Everything was built out of the speaking lines, and then this was the core element. And let's pull up my mixer. And so this is kind of like three major pieces. There's the door, there's the walking, then there's the attack. So for the door, we just used a square from the NES, and we just threw a little reverb on there to give it some space. But it's literally just exactly what you'd hear from the NES emulator. You hear the reverb just gives a little more room to it. The door slide was from a noise generator off of Massive. And it just had the attack and the sustain set for long enough where it felt like the whole door. It was edited a little bit just for the timing, just to make it feel like it was like appropriate length of the door opening. On top of that, we also needed a rumble sound. So the rumble sound, if you ever seen like a hard shell guitar case, is textured. And so I just took another piece of hard plastic, which was this little knife sheath, and I just ran it against it. That's how I got that rumble sound. When you put them together, kind of sounds like an old mechanical door opening. We also did a door lock sound, which is this right here. And there is like a metal like stopper kind of sound at the end. And the way that these were all put together was with a couple of speed squares. We have a giant one and a regular size one, and you can just basically take these and do something like this, and you can get pretty cool sounds out of that. That's the latch, and then if you flip it, you can do, and that's kind of like part of the stopper sound. The other half of the stopper sound is a plastic thing like this. And that did not get as close as I wanted, so there was a lot of EQing and processing that went into getting that to sound like the door sound. Let's see if I can isolate that. That was a pain in the butt. And then you can kind of hear that ticky sound, how that gets there. And the same thing with the door lock. big reverb on it, just give it a nice tail. Of course, there was processing to get it to sound just right. Next, we'll do the footsteps. They're creatures, kind of like some praying mantis, spider-looking thing. And so you have these little legs. I imagine the toes were hard, and they're on the hard metal floors of the ship. You can kind of hear what the individual performance sounded like. This was stainless steel chopsticks across a cast iron griddle top. And that's a bunch of them put together. I went with more of a distinct, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, so it felt like a spider walking. And there is a little bit of a pitch difference on 3 of the 4 channels, so you kind of have a little bit of differentiating. But yeah, so that's how that footstep was put in there. When you hear it in here. Next, let's look at this horror stinger. This was actually pre-made. We knew we were going to need a stinger. So I just took a couple instances of thrill, which you saw before from like the ambient textures, and I just had 2 of those blended, like an orchestral one. I had like a very crazy violin one, both crescendoing, and then I did like a big action strike drum, boom, and I wanted that just to have a big impact at the end. And that led us to this. And we use that in conjunction, so the footsteps walking up as it crescendos, and then it hits, and that leads us to our bite sound, which is this. And the way we did that was with some uncooked pasta. I put it in my mouth, and I chomped it. I did it a bunch of times, and then we put it together to come up with this. Camera check, looking good. And we did the same thing with some ramen, some uncooked ramen. And I put that one down a little bit, panned it out, so we had some depth. Boom, just like that. Pretty much everything here also has a layer of that same reverb, just to a different mix. And then I wanted a little bit of a fleshy sound. I took a washcloth, got it drenched, and just squished it into the mic. That gave us this. I took kind of the attack of one and the release of another. That kind of gave us that long squish sound. And yeah, all together, it sounds something like this. And that was pretty much the whole project for this game. It was only a week to put together, and a lot of the time was spent doing the script and getting the voice acting in. I was able to get a little bit of the music done early, but a lot of it, especially the level music, really came essentially like the last day. But I'm really happy with the project. I'll link it down below. I hope this was beneficial. I hope people were able to kind of glean something from this, and I appreciate everyone for watching. So until next time. Peace.